Dear students, in this video we are going to discuss about constraints in Oracle. Myself, Dr. S. Anand Christie, Assistant Professor, PG Department of Computer Applications. Constraints in Oracle. Constraints are predefined set of rules and restrictions applied on the table or columns for restricting unauthorized values to be inserted into the table. The main purpose of using constraints are we are restricting unauthorized values to be inserted into the table. So before inserting a table, we have to find out whether the values inserted by the user are in a correct format. For that, we are setting a specified rules to be followed while insertion takes place. So constraints are very much useful for filtering a data given by the users, and they are responsible for ensuring the columns data accuracy and integrity reliability inside the table. So we can get the accurate data and integrity reliability inside the table. Constraints also tells that data will be inserted into the table when the inserted data satisfies the constraint rule. So while we are entering the values into the table, those values should be satisfied that given by the rules. Otherwise, the insert operation will be terminated if the inserted data violates the defined constraint. So constraints are very much important for filtering a data, and it is used to restrict entering unauthorized values into the table. Here we can see constraints can be defined in a two ways: table level constraint, column level constraint. Table level constraints apply to the entire table that limit the types of data that can be entered into the table. Its definitions are specified after creating the table using the alter statements. Second one is column level constraint. These constraints apply to the single or multiple columns to limit the type of data that can be entered into the column. Its definition is specified while creating the table. So we can understand we can create a constraint in a two ways. That is, we can create using table level. In that, we are declaring column after the column definition. At the end of the query, we can define for which column we are going to specify a constraint. In column level constraint, after each column, we can define what constraint we are going to follow in that particular column. Whether or we are using a primary key constraint, not null constraint, check constraint. So we can give any constraint for that particular column. Now we can see what are all different types of constraints we are using in Oracle. In first column, we are saying that the constraint name, and second, the description of that particular constraint. First, we are going to discuss about not null constraint. If we are mentioning a not null constraint for a particular column, that column cannot contain a null values. It means you have to compulsorily enter the value to that particular column. You should not leave blank. Second, unique constraint. Unique constraint specifies a column or combination of columns whose values must be unique for all rows in the table. We are setting a unique constraint for a particular column. For example, we are setting a unique constraint for email ID. We have to enter a unique email ID for each row. If you have entered an email ID, you cannot repeat the same email ID for another row. Third one is primary key constraint. Primary key constraint it also uniquely identifies each row in the table. So while setting a primary key constraint, you have to find out which column is uniquely identifies into that table. For example, we are creating a student table. In student table, we are having a many columns: register number, name, subjects, mobile number, whatever it is. In that uniquely identifiable column will be the register number. Based on register number, we can identify a particular student details. So we can set a primary key constraint for uniquely identifiable value in the table. Fourth one is foreign key. Foreign key establishes and enforces a relationship between column and the columns of a reference table. Last one is check constraint. A check constraint specifies a condition that must be true. For example, you are setting a check constraint for a salary column. In that particular column, you are checking the salary should be greater than 15,000 for all the employees. After setting that particular constraint, if you enter a value before 15,000, the value cannot be inserted into that particular table. For that, we are using a check constraint. Foreign key constraint, we can refer another table. For example, we are declaring a primary key particular column. In that column, we can refer a reference to the another table as a foreign key. We can see in a detailed manner. Next slide. Here we can see that table name employee is created by a command create table. Create table name employee here. In that we are declaring many columns. First column we are created as EMPNO, that is employee number. For that we are setting a data type as number. Then constraint, it is a key, that is we are going to set constraint name emp number underscore pk. For constraint we can set a name, that is emp number is a primary key. For that we are mentioning a constraint name as empno underscore pk. If you does not define a name for that constraint, the Oracle server will take any value as a constraint name. So it is better to have to set a constraint name. In that we understand that emp number will be set as a primary key. That primary key name as empno underscore pk. Second column emp name. For the data type we are setting as varchar25. Then we are using a keyword constraint followed by constraint name emp name underscore nn. That is, we are setting a not null constraint. For not null constraint, we are setting a name as emp name underscore nn. That is emp name not null. So you have to practice that giving a name relevant to that particular column. So we can understand the constraint name emp name underscore nn, which means it is set for emp name for not null constraint. Third column defined as email id, where char 30 is the data type. Then constraint is a keyword followed by constraint name. We are given email id underscore u. It means unique constraint. Here we are setting a unique constraint for email ID, which means you cannot enter the same email ID to the another person. So you have to give a different email IDs to the different persons. Then fifth one, date of joining. For date of joining, we are defining a data type as date. Then salary, data type number, we are setting a constraint, check constraint. For that salary underscore check is the name given by user for check constraint. Here we are checking salary less than 25,000. In this table, you have to setting that salary should be below 25,000. If you enter above 25,000, the value cannot be inserted into the table. So we are giving a constraint, that is a condition to that particular salary column, that is salary should be below 25,000. Then the last one is department number data type constraint department number foreign key references to department number. Here we are declaring a department number column with the data type number that will be references to the another table, that is department table. In that column department table, we are having referencing column name department number. So here we are references given to another table. After creating a table, how we can add a constraint into that particular column. Here is an example how to add a constraint to an existing table. Alter table name here as emp, add constraint name we are setting as emp underscore primary key. Then primary key within a bracket we are going to set for which column you are going to set a primary key. I'm going to set the column name employee number as a primary key. So within a bracket we are mentioning that particular column name. So after creating a table, we can set a constraint for that particular column too. Here we can see how to create a constraint. Constraint in both the levels, that is column level as well as table level. Here in this table, we are creating both the way. We are creating a table name called emp id number, constraint name given as emp id pk, that is primary key. Then second column as emp name varchar 225. Again we are setting a constraint emp not null constraint. Third one is email varchar 225. For email we are not setting any value, that is any constraint. Then there is a salary defined as number. Then we are setting a check constraint for salary, that is salary should be greater than 10,000 for all the employees. Then last one is department id set as number. In this query, we can see that EMP ID, EMP name, salary, these three columns, those three columns, we can set a primary key in column level. In a column itself, we are setting a constraints. That is EMP ID for primary key, then not null for EMP, then check constraint for salary column. Then email ID, department ID. We are setting after that. That is at the end of the query, we are setting email ID. That is constraint email ID unique. Within bracket, we are setting a column name email. And last one is again constraint DEPT foreign key references department ID, references to department number. After creating a table, at the last row we are creating two constraint, that is for email and department ID. So these two are called as table level constraint. So in this example, we are seeing both the things, column level constraint as well as table level constraint. At the same column, we are defining constraint mean that is called a column level constraint. If you are defining after creating a table, it is called as table level constraint. Thank you for watching.